This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
The World Cup is back and Football Weekly is going daily. From the goals and the glory to the politics and the problems, join me, Max Rushton, and our expert panel every day of the tournament. World Cup Daily, listen on Spotify now and watch the full episodes on YouTube.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone's welcome at the table, but of course, as always, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
This is Tim.
And this is episode 580, Building Up, our top 10 games that build skyward. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. Hey friends, we're back, and for this special episode, thanks to our friend Tim here, we are building up to the heights, to the deluxe apartment in the sky high. Tim has brought us the top 10 games that build upwards.
We're heading to the penthouse.
I'm telling you, Tim, you did it. You were like, I want to come on the podcast and I want to elevate the podcast. And turns out, literally, he did, because he's talking about games that go upwards and not, the quality of the dialogue, or I don't know. I'm sorry.
I like
Tim.
to add in some layers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, some layers. Add a little bit of things here and there. Some intrigue, some speculation, some hot takes. This top 10 list, you said, is going to really break some hearts and challenge some people at a fundamental level, question their meaning and existence in God and everything. So it's going to be one of those kind of epic all-time episodes, Tim. So no pressure, Tim. No pressure at all.
Wow. I don't know. I know what happened when they tried to build the Tower of Babel to get upwards. So We'll see if we get into grand disasters of that scale.
This could be the last podcast, Tim. It might be hearkening the end of all at the end times. So nonetheless, you'll have games that go upwards. So maybe that'll help you get up there. A ladder to heaven. I don't know. It's a thing that could happen.
Yeah, careful how you phrase that. There's copyright laws that we may infringe. So
there you go. It's true. So, well, we have a team of lawyers. We don't have anything else on the podcast, Tim, but for some reason we have a team of lawyers at our disposal if needed. So we've been on for a long time and yet have not. Well, I shouldn't. I should count my blessings and knock on wood, Tim. Right? Like, just in case other things might happen or possibly show up. But nonetheless, we're having a good time. We're talking about cardboard, man.
Absolutely. It's hard to be angry when talking board games.
I know. It's so much a fun thing. Now, Tim, before we get into the episode and have all fun that is cardboard related, you got to have some fun. You talked about this last week. You got to go see Hey-Man.
I did. Masters of the Universe hit theaters this past weekend, and it's open to a medium start, I'd say. There's folks who say it's not going to break even for the cost. $200 million is a pretty big budget to spend on a movie, plus promotions.
Sure.
But I think opening weekend it made something like 30-something million, and then making a few million per day in each day in the opening week. So I think it's doing okay. I went into this movie with very high hopes. I mean, this is the first He-Man movie in 40 years. The last one in my mind was a bit of a stinker. I know it's a cult classic, but wasn't really my thing. And I watched He-Man a ton as a kid. That was my IP. I loved He-Man.
Sure.
Defender of the week, right? He's Prince Adam, but when the time comes down that he needs to throw down, his muscles spring forth and he beats off the bad guys and saves the day. So I think that's what I was looking for going into this movie. And
Sure.
people that I know had seen it and liked it. But unfortunately, I have to say that I left this movie somewhat angry and disappointed.
Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, Tim's thoughts. Here we go.
Go for
So
it, Tim.
I will say the look of the movie was excellent.
Okay.
I thought they really did a good job. Special effects were excellent. So it's not one of those movies where you're watching it and you're taken out of the mood by, ooh, that was a really crappy sort of special effect. They did costuming well. I liked their take on some of the characters. They made them sort of realistic, a little bit gritty looking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a few choices I might have done differently, but overall, I really liked the look of the movie. The audio, on the other hand, was something that was a bit jarring to me. I think, in my mind, Skeletor has a certain voice that's iconic,
Yes.
right? And so I kind of felt I was watching a movie, but the voice didn't fit. Like, it was like Bugs Bunny popping out of the hole and saying, "Hey, what's up, Doc?" You know,
Yeah.
like you have this certain voice that you're ready to hear from Skeletor. And so when that was different, I just found it a bit jarring.
Sure.
And Cringer similarly. And I don't know, it's kind of like in the Mario Brothers movie too. A lot of people sort of had that comment. They expected Mario to have a certain voice, and then when it
Yes.
changed, you can get used to it. That in and of itself was not a deal breaker. But the movie made weird choices for one thing in what to include and what not to include.
Mm.
So when I think He-Man, I immediately think Battle Cat, right?
Yeah, sure.
Battle Cat literally showed up in like the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Mm.
And so that was a big disappointment. And Orko didn't even show up till the credits scene,
Gotcha.
end scene credits. And so those were really weird movies. It's like watching a Avengers movie without the Hulk and Thor and everyone just
Yeah.
pretending that that's normal. So that bothered me a bit. But I think really what bothered me the most was the tone of the movie. It felt to me like some adults had discovered the He-Man IP and kind of said, "What the heck is this? And how are we going to make this into a live action?" And so there was a lot of mockery, I felt, of the IP. And the first few jokes were funny, but then it was kind of, to me, just one too many jokes at the expense of the IP that started to feel more like mockery than humor. And I don't know, maybe that's me just being oversensitive.
Aw.
But and then two other big things that bugged me. One was the character of He-Man. So they leaned into Prince Adam very heavily, and it worked. The way they did Prince Adam I kind of liked, but then when he became He-Man, he still kept the bumbling sort of incompetence almost of Prince Adam, which was a weird thing for me. He-Man generally is a very powerful guy that hides his identity to protect those he loves, kind of like Batman, right?
Sure.
So imagine watching a Batman movie where everybody knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me was just, again, a very weird dynamic in the movie. And then finally, I think in terms of He-Man was notorious for having a lesson in it, right?
Yes.
And they even kind of pulled Orko out at the end to give the lesson of the movie. But it was muddled to me. Like it set this up like He-Man goes to live in the real world, or Prince Adam, when he's young, and you see this world building up where it's super politically correct and nobody wants to say what they mean, and they're sort of making a little bit of gentle mockery about political correctness. And then, so I thought, okay, maybe they're going to introduce like his masculinity as a cure for this, taking that too far. But then it just kind of became, well, he goes back to the other world, Eternia, and well, we see that, well, he's nice. He's nice to Teela, who's a woman, but Skeletor is beating on Evil Lynn or hurting her. So to be masculine, it sort of implies, well, it's just not to hurt women. And I don't know, they kind of did this weird, the only intelligent people in the movie were women, all the guys were dolts, and I just kind of rubbed me wrong. I don't know, I'm all for equality. I just get a little tired of the narrative of the bumbling idiot guy. And so for a variety of reasons, I just sat there kind of by the end seething a little bit. My kids loved it. My wife loved it. And they turned to me and I was like, I hated it. And then I go online and all these people love it. So I don't know. I might have to give it a second chance now that I know what to expect. But it was a big disappointment for me.
Did you see the Kevin Smith He-Man? I think it was on Netflix.
No, I have watched.
Okay.
There was one prior to that, I think, and I saw some of that. I watched the first season or most of the first season, the Kevin Smith one. Became more about Tila than it was about He-Man, and so I didn't finish that one, I don't think, but
yeah, I mean, I was probably just a little barely bit too old for He-Man, just like a little bit, like I was a little old for that. But I remember watching some of it, and I remember the toys and everything that kind of came with it. And it's difficult because obviously we're talking about like a property from the 80s, like, and I mean like the 80s, like early 80s kind of thing. And I think the lore or the story behind it was like they wanted to do Conan the Barbarian, but they couldn't, so they went with this. And I think not a couple of years back they had a documentary which I watched, which was like very interesting about the making of it. And the show itself certainly had a certain vibe. And what was funny about that was, I think if I remember correctly on this, Tim, the toys came out before the show. So I think if I remember correctly, there was commercials for He-Man that was selling the toys, and then this was back in the day where I think Reagan had pulled back you can't make toy commercials that are basically cartoons, right? Like, and basically that's what He-Man was. He-Man was like introducing all the figures, but the same thing was true about G.I. Joe and Transformers, the first generation, and endless number of other things like Gem and She-Ra and everything else like that, and Thundercats. So, but He-Man was like specifically about selling toys, but it certainly had a certain vibe to it, and maybe that was like within that particular era of time, and it, like you said, it was tongue in cheek, and it knew what it was, and it was very much like aware of everything that it was doing and why it was doing it. But again, it had an earnest, I think, to it that as a kid was like, I get that this is not like G.I. Joe tried to be realistic, except for the fact that no one ever got shot, right? Like, everyone shot red and blue lasers. But He-Man like had a genuine innocence to it, like good versus evil, and that kind of real personal kind of way, especially for kids. So
on that, in this movie, there's a scene where He-Man fights the bad guys, and it almost like it implies that he kills them, which again was jarring to me. Like, He-Man went out of his way to tie them up and restrain them and stop them from doing evil, but he never like bloodied them and like made them, you know?
I mean, the Skeletor had to run away at the end of the episode, just like Team Rocket from Pokemon, right? Like it had to be one of those things where, again, the eternal battle of good versus evil kind of thing. So I think maybe like if this came out 10 or 20 years earlier, it would probably fit a little more into the vibe of things. And I think at least from the reviews I've seen and the commercials and the trailers I've seen, because I would be interested in seeing this, Tim. It looks like it was really well done. And it also kind of came, it's the same year that Street Fighter is coming out with a movie. And that seems to be of like somewhat of the same kind of like hokey kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. But I guess for a movie, it's hard to get that vibe down, right? Because from the cartoon to the memes to I guess the Dolph Lundgren version was a lot more like barbarian, realistic, quasi kind of thing. You know, like the early Mario movie. Remember the first Mario movie that came out with Bob Hopkins and stuff like that, and John Leguizamo? Oh, this is back. I don't think I remember that one. I do not recommend watching it. If you do, it's kind of horrifying because everything is like, it's a really weird version. So yeah, I'm not terribly surprised that they couldn't get the tone right, as is probably what I'm saying.
But I guess I'm surprised because, I mean, it got an 88% so far on Rotten Tomatoes, and in all the Masters of the Universe groups that I belong to, because I'm a nerd,
okay,
they like it, and they say they captured the campiness, but it didn't capture the earnesty and the innocence to me. It was more gritty, and I guess people didn't mind that. I didn't mind it for the costuming or the look, but I didn't love it in terms of the tone.
So maybe that's something they need to fix the sequel, and if they get a sequel, and obviously, like you said, they keep a lot of characters out so they can do a sequel, which is it's the way Marvel does things now, which is kind of infected everybody else, which is like hold off on like the real important stuff so that you have something to do later.
And then they teased the She-Ra series that I guess is coming to Amazon Prime that's live action. So my daughter's a big She-Ra fan. She's watched a bit of the old one and liked the recent Netflix series that came out. And so she's more excited for the She-Ra. So
Yes,
I'll watch that with her.
I heard the Netflix one was very good. I didn't get a chance to watch that, and I remember She-Ra as a kid, which I think there was also a weird thing where she was not allowed to hit anyone with her sword.
No.
So she constantly was kicking and punching people, although she had a sword with her. But that's also very much the Ninja Turtle thing where they had, katanas and sais and everything else, but always threw pizzas at the ninjas for some reason. You're like, wait a minute, that's kind of weird. Use your swords. You have swords. They do more damage than pepperoni. Well, if you read the original comic, Ninja Turtle comic, then it is certainly more ninja based, like actually realistic. As much of Ninja Turtles could actually be realistic, Tim.
Fair.
So I'm sorry, Tim. That is certainly heartbreaking. I'm sorry you had that bad time with He-Man. Hopefully you can.
My advice is everybody go see it. Listen to all the other people. Support the IP. I want them to make more He-Man stuff, even if I didn't particularly like this one. So,
well, there you go. Tim's desperate appeal for more He-Man. That's a little more earnest and a little less wacky, silly, realistic kind of thing. I mean, Tim, it could have been worse. Let's be honest.
Oh, it definitely could have been. Yeah.
It could have been really bad.
It was not really bad. It just certain things irked me.
You should go watch the Dolph Lundgren version and then watch the movie again, and then you'll have a better appreciation for it.
It has improved over 40 years. Yes. It is better than that one.
Not by much, but it is.
By a lot.
All right, everyone. Well, let's get on to the episode. So let's start off with Roll for Preview. So what do you have up for us this week, Tim?
Well, I was lucky enough this weekend to also go down to Toronto, which is about 2.5 hours from my place, and a 10-day, one-day board gaming convention. So
fancy.
Yeah, the Toronto Area Board Gaming Society, TABS, puts on a couple conventions per year just as a one-day thing where they do a math trade, buy and sell, and have lots of open gaming.
I like that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, so definitely a gaming-focused con as opposed to a sort of publisher or go-to-buy kind of con. And yeah, so as we sat there for the day, I had a chance to play 3 games with friends, and I'll just quickly run through those. First one we played was Super Motherload, which is a kind of unique deck builder. It's from a few years ago, but I hadn't had a chance to play it recently. It's definitely one that I've gone back to over the years a few times because it is unique. So if you picture a board kind of like Dig Dug, the old 8-bit game where you have the surface and then you're digging tunnels down vertically or horizontally into the earth, it very much has that sort of vibes. And so you have 3 types of cards in your deck. You're going to have, or 3 types of soil to dig through is probably an easy way to explain. So soil, which can be bombed or dug through with drill bits. Plates, which you need color-coded drill bits. And then rock, which can only be tackled with bombs. So your cards are going to have a combination of those things, and as you go through the game, you mine up different minerals worth different dollar values, which you then place onto cards that are more powerful. Once you hit the dollar value, you collect that card and put it in your deck to upgrade your deck for the next time you go through it. And so very much a deck building mechanic, sort of classic draw 5, play them, see what you can do kind of feel. But it actually takes an action to draw a card, so it's not quite classic, but the game itself is very fun. It's not overly complicated to learn. It's colorful. This idea of building tunnels physically in front of you is a lot of fun. And the entire game plays relatively quickly. I would say an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. So, yeah, light medium. I think the weight on BGG, I'm just looking here, is 2.27. So it's got a little bit of meat to it, but it's not overwhelming by any means. So really enjoyed that one. Super Motherload.
Yeah, I got a chance to play that way back in the day, and I think you're really correct on that. It's a very light, colorful, dynamic Dig Dug game. I think that's a good way to put it.
Cool. And then we decided we would play something a little bigger physically. One of those games that don't get to hit the table at home too often. So we pulled out Mezo, which is a sort of dudes on a map game, which has its own appeal. It's got first thing I'll say, some very pretty miniatures. There's 4 different gods in the game, and those minis definitely cause people to stop at the table and say, "Ooh, what's that you're playing?" One that kind of looks like a giant serpent, one that looks like an earth titan, one that's more like a goddess of death. And so those are very eye-catching. And then each player also gets their own unique shamans and warriors, and each players look differently sculpted from other players. So they did put some effort into the visuals of the game. But overall, the game boils down to an area control game where there's a certain set number of regions on the map, and your god can sit at the intersections of those regions, and so it may have influence over the adjacent 2 or 3 regions it's sitting next to. And then you draw 3 god cards and pick one to use in the region that's currently being fought over. So the game goes over 3 rounds, and you'll fight through all the different regions in each round, trying to get area majority, putting your warriors and shamans to work. And then at the end of the battle, the person will get the bonus of the region for winning. And the first player who has the most warriors left after all the fighting's done will get a bonus. The player who has the most shamans done after the fighting's done will get a bonus. So, and there's no dice rolling or anything. It's all deterministic through card play, through various powers. And then you can make yourselves asymmetric. Your god is asymmetric to begin with, and then you're choosing each round a different ability to add to your faction. So you do become a little more asymmetric from each other as the game goes on. I thought it was solid. Well designed. I'm not sure it did anything incredibly new. Definitely falls into the sort of realm of a Blood Rage type of game. And that's, I think, where I trip up a bit. I don't think I liked it as well as Blood Rage. And is there going to be room for this in my collection in addition to Blood Rage? Maybe. I'd like to play it a couple more times before I make my final decision. But yeah, good theming, good components, solidly designed. I didn't feel it was broken in any way that I could see.
Sure.
So yeah, definitely a game I'd recommend as a play on first impressions.
Nice.
And then finally, we pulled out a game that was totally different called The Glade. So this is by Richard Breeze, who you may know from games like the Key Game series, Cathedral, Keyflower,
Yes.
Keeper, and he did one called Reef Encounter, which I also like. This one was an abstract game kind of along the lines of Quirkle, where you had to build sets of tiles, but each tile had 4 different symbols, and you'd try to make a set of at least 2, but you could make 3 or 4, and you had to get the symbols in your row to all be the same or all be different in each of those 4 categories, which was really mind trippy trying to put together those sets. So I don't think I've really played a game as much where I struggled to figure out whether my turn was legal and is this set I'm making okay? And it would really take quite a while piecing things together to say, oh yeah, okay, that set works. And then you had to figure out how to add it to your board so it kind of linked to the tiles you already had, kind of like a crossword. So it was really mind-bendy on the first play. By the end, it seemed to come a little more naturally, but one of the 3 players we had really, I don't think by the end, still was struggling to put together the sets, which is like the core mechanic of the game. So definitely a learning curve. And if I'm honest, I think I'd rather just play Quirkle. It had a lot layered in, but I didn't... The fun part of Quirkle was still there, but all the rest I didn't find that fun, I think. So, yeah. Again, solidly designed, different. Richard Breeze, very different from the other games I've played by him. Colorful, it had these nice looking toadstools and things that went onto the board, but the tiles themselves are kind of muted.
Sure.
I don't know. To me, it's a light play.
Okay. On the lighter side there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, those are great games to review, Tim, and you had a generally good time at the conference overall, so you would recommend the convention.
Absolutely. TabsCon has been running, I think this was actually the 69th iteration of TabsCon.
Wow.
So they've been doing it for a number of years, and they have their formula down, and it is what it is. Great for getting together and playing a game. There's probably 200-300 people there, I would say, for the day, so big enough. In the Legion Hall, food supplied, excellent burgers on the barbecue, beer available if you're inclined. It was just a good day.
When's the? You said they run them multiple times a year?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's quarterly. I want to say that's the plan. So it's hard for me to make most times. This one, all the stars aligned, and I made it. So yes, it is quarterly. So if you're in the Toronto area, look them up. TabsCon.
TabsCon. Yeah, no, I always like to support the small conventions out there, especially when they're as responsive and fun to the gamers out there as well. So it's very cool. For my role for review, I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about 3 games I played at a conference, just like Tim talked about, and give you a light impression of all 3 games so that you get a sense of if these games might be for you. So first up, Dune, War for Arrakis. This is a highly anticipated game. Anthony, I picked up a copy and we got a chance to play it at the Gathering of Friends up in Niagara, New York. And I was really looking forward to this because they kind of position this and the framework and the game mechanics from the designers of War of the Ring, the board game. So I love that game. Anthony loves that game. It's a big fan. We're both big fans of the game itself. And it's a really interesting game as far as just generally getting you involved in the story and the conflicts that make up the grand story of Dune. So when you play the Lord of the Rings version of the game, or even if you play Star Wars Rebellion, there is this overarching epic story kind of playing out. And you, as the player, and they're both 2-player games, including Dune War for Arrakis, you are really involved in all of the different story elements, but you have an opportunity to take the story in down different paths and utilize strategy and different tactics and battling and just that kind of real kind of tactical skirmish gameplay to kind of, flip the odds to your favor. And in all 3 of those games, there is the gigantic, overwhelming force, and there's the small group of rebels with like all the spirit to kind of contend with all the destruction that's happening planet size. So Dune War for Arrakis, and I mean, first off, there's just too much to go into for Dune. Hopefully you've taken advantage of the current films that are coming out. Dune, I guess Dune 3? Are we at 3, Tim, or is it
We're at 3?
Yeah. So I keep thinking of that because I'm thinking 3rd book, but it's not the 3rd book. It's kind of, we don't really know what it is. I guess that's fair to say, right, Tim? Like it's between 2 and 3.
Yeah, I've watched the first 2 movies. I have to say I never really paid much attention to Dune in the past. I didn't like the 80s movie. Never read the books. So I really like these first 2 movies. I can't wait for the 3rd one. My teenage daughter is also similarly pumped. So
yeah. Denis Villeneuve has done an insane, incredible job to encapsulate this epic, gigantic universe. And if you watch this, you see a lot of elements of this in Star Wars because the books came out prior to Star Wars, and Lucas used a lot of the elements from Dune. So, Tim, I don't know how much to give away here, but let me just say, again, seemingly good versus evil. Seemingly, Tim, you can't see because we're doing a podcast, Tim, but I'm using air quotes here. So you should watch the first 2 movies. I'm not going to give anything away because the books are fantastic. The movies are extraordinary. And the 3rd movie's coming up to wrap things up. And there's a lot more books. So I'm not sure how far he's going to go in the 3rd movie. So again, I don't want to say too much. But basically, it's the battle for Arrakis that produces spice. And spice is this element that really allows all of the inhabitants and the houses of this universe to operate. So Dune, the planet, another word for the planet of Arrakis, is really key and central to this story. So you are taking one of the 2 sides. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but there's House Atreides and there's Harkonnen. And Harkonnen are these kind of like massive, evil, corrupt kind of military just monsters that are controlling the planet. And you, as, again, I don't want to say too much here. Let's just say as the good guys here, right? Because the good guys make up a lot of different elements, Tim, right? They're not just like one kind of group of people. You're rebelling. You're the rebels and you're fighting back. So got a chance to play this. Got to play the super bad guys here because House Harkonnen is a little bit easier because all of your elements are on the board. All your military elements, you're controlling the planet. And the rebels here are kind of pushing back and they are trying to take out certain elements, and they're trying to meet certain conditions on their objective cards. This is very similar to Star Wars Rebellion, where you have to meet certain conditions, and a lot of it's sabotage based, and a lot of it is waiting to a point later in the game where you could take like military control. So a small band of rebels versus the monstrous machine that's kind of controlling the planet and the resources. As far as I would say, as far as the game goes, like, yes, there is some elements that really reminded me of War of the Ring and Star Wars Rebellion, where you're playing again down this long story mode with epic phases. That being said, I would say that the game is uniquely different because the way I felt playing the game was it was more of a standard board game, honestly, Tim. It was troops on a map. And yes, you started with a condition where your troops were on the map, and you had a lot of flexibility as far as how you wanted to build up your troops and what kind of captains and generals you want to bring in. And there are action points which allow you to take different actions off your particular board. Now, the Rebels play slightly differently. Yes, they still have action points, but again, they're trying to meet those objective conditions, but they have different things that they're doing as well. And a lot of the things that you're both doing are somewhat secretive. And as a game comes together, really you are trying to defend against what they're trying to do. So you're trying to stop the Rebels from meeting their conditions. And for the Rebels, you're trying to stop this massive evil machine people from clamping down on you and scoring points from just knocking out your particular locations. So I only got a chance to play one full game of this. I very much enjoyed it. It has a lot of really cool elements to it. Like I mentioned, I really enjoyed in particular the different strategies you could take, how the battles turned on a dime based upon particular cards that you had to play. There are giant Dune worms in the game, so it's kind of fun to actually have them on the table. You have all the different elements from the movie, the extractors and the copters. There's just so many different fun, cool elements to the game itself. But really, it comes down to being a very straightforward troops on the map board. So this, I'm going to say, Tim, like, oddly enough, like, as much as I loved playing this game, and I did, and I remember when this was up, I believe it was up on Kickstarter. It was definitely crowdfunded. I think it was on Kickstarter. And I kind of struggled whether I wanted to pick this up or not because it was a little expensive. I have to say, like, it's worth owning, Tim, but I do not feel like it gave me enough to make me feel like what War of the Ring, the board game, or Star Wars Rebellion made me feel. Like, I still don't feel like I am playing this epic kind of massive story out and I'm playing elements of it out. It felt like a very good board game. So if you're looking for a very good board game, this game is a buy, but it's not, for me at least, it doesn't rise to the level like the movies do or the books do, just because I still feel it's very small. I wish there were more outside elements like the Spacing Guild or other houses that came into play. So, or the Bene Jesuits played a little bit more, right? You have cards, but the cards really like, so-and-so did a thing, and you're like, like, I really want to feel more of that kind of bigger space there. So it certainly gets a buy for me again. But if you're looking for something, again, just because the comparisons out there, I have to say for me, it didn't reach that level. But again, very good game.
So not a Hall of Famer is what I'm hearing, but a very, very solid entry.
It is. I think it's surprisingly because Dune. Have you played Dune Imperium, Tim?
Yes, once.
Okay.
So I don't know it well, but I have played it, yeah.
Okay, and Uprising is the new version of that, which just incorporates the expansions. I feel like that feels more like the Dune universe than this board game. I know some of that's heresy and people will get mad, Tim. But I do feel, because, when you play the cards, like, there's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of alliances and things. And I don't think you get that at the board game. I want to have more. I want to, like, when you play Lord of the Rings, War of the Ring, like, the alliances are very important, and you have to win over the alliances politically. You have to let the good people, the free people, know that, the bad guys are coming, right? Sauron is kind of moving and such like that. So
I think maybe the analogy might be, I haven't played it, but there's the Battle of Five Armies, which really
yes,
zooms in on the one part of
there you go, Tim. I
the
like
Hobbit,
that.
right? And you fight it out. This is kind of like that to me, the War of Arrakis. And so if this third movie expands further into the universe, which my understanding is it will,
Mhm.
I do wonder if we'll get another game that looks more at that it's not global, it's more than global,
Yes,
intergalactic sort of politics going on.
it's true. 100%. So, yeah. Two other quick games that I got a chance to play. Only played one. I think I played two. I think I played two games of this. Star Wars Battle for Hoth. This is the new re-implementation of Memoir 44 or Battle Lore, whatever you're looking for. This is based on Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. The Rebels again versus the Empire. I guess we're seeing a theme here, Tim. And basically, it utilizes one of the kind of biggest, best kind of card mechanics from Richard Borg. This came out from Days of Wonder, and they always do a fantastic job as far as games are concerned. And basically, what you're doing is you're trying to meet the conditions of that particular game or that particular campaign. And there's multiple campaigns in the game, and each of the campaigns has slightly different goals, but primarily what you're trying to do is knock out the forces of the other side. And every time you do knock out a complete unit, whether it's soldiers or AT-ATs or snow speeders, you'll score a point. And again, based on how many points you need, that typically is going to lead to the win. What's a little different from this than, let's say, Memoir 44, at least the base version of it, is you're going to have an opportunity to pick a leader, and that leader is going to give you their set of cards. And their cards are very powerful. They get shuffled into the deck, and each of the leaders has a particular strategy. So some leaders work better with the vehicles, some leaders work better with the troops, some leaders have different abilities to kind of give you additional cards and such. So those are big moments when you play the particular game. The components of the game are excellent. The board is certainly shorter than Memoir 44. The components are certainly less, but the game feels big. The game feels dramatic. The game feels fun. You are certainly, as you mentioned, Tim, like you are zoomed into this one moment of the movie where the strategy and tactics really come into play. And of course, you have dice rolling. So typically you're going to play one card from your hand. That's going to allow you to activate one of three different areas, or in some cases, all three, or two of three, or sometimes, as I mentioned, special cards that come into play. And that's really where the fun comes into play, because those cards are very unique and very fun, but also kind of give you rails so that you don't feel overwhelmed when you're playing the game. You're like, oh, I can do this, or I can do that, but I really can't do everything. Not to worry. I feel comfortable and like this is the most I can do. But since you have the dice rolling, it gives you that element of randomness or chance in battle that really is typical in a lot of kind of these battle games. So Star Wars Battle of Hoth is a buy for me. Absolute buy. I love the movies, of course. I'm a little bit biased. But if you were ever looking for the Richard Borg card mechanic here, and you were looking to, get to play a really cool skirmish battle on two sides with a lot of different elements, I think this is kind of the best one. It's fairly inexpensive, first off. If you're going to play Memoir 44, it's a little more robust, and there's a lot more to it. And then obviously there's more and more and more. This felt appropriately sized, appropriately timed, and it had a lot of big moments to it on top of which. So high recommendation for me on that.
So this is a tough one for me because I do like me some Star Wars, but
Yeah.
I own almost everything from the first edition of Battle Lore,
Oh,
and I
nice.
own almost everything from Memoir 44, and I
Same.
just could not stomach getting back into the system a third time, and so
Yeah.
I didn't pick this one up. I have some friends who have it, and I do hope to play it.
It's a good starter for that system, Tim. It's a good way to I think if you bring that to game night, then your friends will ask you to bring the other stuff out.
Fair, because I'm coming from the other perspective where I've played those games a fair amount, and my
Yes.
friend who bought this one thought, oh, it's kind of a watered down version of those games. And so he enjoyed it. He gave it also
Sure.
a good recommendation, but he just felt, when you're used to these other ones, this one feels lesser, was his opinion. But
Yeah, I have Battlelord the second edition. I have most of the troops. They stopped printing those things, unfortunately, so I don't have all of the pieces there. But I've loved that game. I even have the app for that on my iPad. Memoir 44, I have a lot of it. I don't have all of it because there's a lot for Memoir 44.
yeah,
But I have like the planes. I have a lot of stuff. And I also have Rivet Wars. Tim, do you remember Rivet Wars?
I do. I never got into that one. I saved my pocketbook on that one.
I got Rivet Wars the first edition, Tim. The second edition supposedly is better, and I was like, damn it. I did not back that. So I really enjoy that mechanic, and I do agree this is a somewhat watered down, but I think that for the audience and the price that they were looking for, I think this is a good gateway game to get people into the more vastness of that kind of Borg universe. So
Borg universe.
I know. Why isn't there a Star Trek version, Tim? We need a Star Trek version now.
With how well this one's doing, maybe we'll get one. Let's see.
Maybe. It's copy and paste, man. And finally, I just want to talk ever so briefly about a game that I know it's gotten a lot of positive attention. It's a Stefan Feld, and I am a Feld mechanic. Fanatic, I should say. That being said, Civolution. This has had some challenges. I know a lot of people has struggled with this game because this was Feld's civilization game, but from the future, but also from the past, but also sci-fi-ish kind of thing, but also a giant tech sheet and also a weird prehistoric map for some reason. I know Anthony was kind of befuddled, at least in his initial review, of playing this with the dice rolls not kind of going his way. I got a chance to play this. I think we played this at 3 players. It is a massive table hog if you've ever seen this game on the table. I mentioned there is a center map which has a lot of the civilization building. There are 2 sideboards that have additional cards and tracks. And then your board is enormous. It's like 2 pieces of like this, I guess, concave shape, which then you put cards in the middle of it to kind of build it out into like a solid rectangle. And then there's a bunch of just like different pieces that go on your board to manage resources and skills and abilities. So I'm a Feld fan. I love civilization games. Anthony taught this game, so we were on board as far as that was concerned. And I gotta say, like, it's not bad. I will say, though, Tim, it's too much. And the thing I love about Feld more than anything is that, like, when you play his games, at least to a certain point, they feel like they were so play tested to the ends of the earth and that they play perfectly almost with every player count, especially at 2. And then I played this and I was like, dear God, where was the editor when they came here? Because, like, again, like, it's not a difficult game when you get down to it. It's not really a very complicated game, but there's like so many different elements where you have to like pull this, put that there, move this and move that. And then as I'm playing the game, I'm just like, I like certain elements. I like the tech board. I like moving up the tech trees. And I could not care less about the map. The map was the most boring, inconsequential thing that I've ever seen play as far as the civilization game goes. Like, you're putting things down, which marks that you kind of own the space, but then there are things that flip over that could hurt your guys, but you're going to get resources, but then you have to get the resources back to your, I guess, main base, which takes another action. And I was just like, I wasn't mad at the game, but I was, and again, it's a genius creation. I mean, all the different elements to it, Tim. Like, again, I wish I could give people out there like a very succinct kind of impression of the game, because like the main map has resources. You have to claim areas, get the resources, then get the resources off the board. They go onto your tech board. Then based on where they are and how much you have available, then you can go for upgrades. And the upgrades section of your board on the right side is a whole nother game. But then there's also other triggers and there's other tracks. And at the end of the game, the tracks really matter. And I was just like, it seemed like this was like Feld was like challenged himself to put every civilization mechanic into one board game that was bright and colorful and dynamic. And I felt like it just didn't hold together. It just like, it was just like a lot of things. And I didn't feel like the dice mechanic was too much of a problem to kind of mitigate. But certainly you could have bad rolls, and you're certainly going to have bad rolls early in the game. It doesn't feel like a Civilization game. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. And it doesn't really feel like I'm doing like it doesn't feel like anything, Tim. I feel like this kind of harkens back to the older games where people would used to criticize Euro games and say you're playing a spreadsheet. And then we were like, no, it's not a spreadsheet. And like, Tim, I felt I was playing a spreadsheet, Tim. So I can't recommend this game. Anthony did pick up the expansion, and I'm hoping that when he gets to play that expansion will make the game better. But I feel like the only expansion that could make this game better, if it was an expansion with an empty box and a sheet of paper that says, I want you to take the certain elements from the game and throw them in the box, and then throw the box in the fire. Because like there's just too much this game. And I was rather disappointed in Civolution. So I'm going to give it a dodge, Tim.
A dodge? Whoa.
Yeah. A Feld game, nonetheless.
Yeah. So you're advocating for a shrinkage rather than an expansion. So
yeah.
I only played this once. I echo a lot of what you would have said in terms of my first impressions. And part of me wonders, like, is this just meant to be a lifestyle game where it's going to be the payoff after you play a few times and you understand the intricacies, and there is a lot to explore there. And as a design project, I looked at it and say, wow, like, this is a big swing, and a lot of time and effort went into this. I can appreciate that. But I kind of left with a similar impression of, do I want to make this my lifestyle game? Do I want to invest that much time and effort to master this and understand it fully? And I'm not sure that I did. We never did go back to it. We moved on to other things, and now I'd have to relearn it all again. And I'm just like, well, maybe, I guess. So I kind of left the same. I have an appreciation for it. I don't know. And I'm glad I played it. There's been a lot of chatter about it. But I'm kind of with you. I don't. There's so many other Feld games I'd rather play, I think, is the bottom line.
I mean, the dice mechanic is interesting because when you roll the dice, depending on the pips, you'll only have certain number of actions available to you. And the numbers on the pips are very, like, you can somewhat modify them by getting, certain things that will move it up and down, but you're really mostly held to those numbers. And those numbers are very specific to very specific spots on the board. So you could have turns where you roll ones and twos, and like there's only so much mitigation you can do, even though you want to take the higher actions. So from that sense of the game, it's just like I don't understand why that would be that limitation in this type of game, because it just, the game is so robust. Like, why? Like, you have to do so many things in this game to be profitable. Why is a dice roll really hurting me? And you could, and I purchased additional dice. Of course, I had one die taken away from me, which I don't like that mechanic because it takes a lot to get a die. And even then, it was still like I have one extra die or two extra dies, and that took a lot of time to get there. But I'm still rolling 1, 2s, and 3s. Like, it's not great. Or even if you roll 5s and 6s, it doesn't really fit with every number.
Yeah,
I hear you, Tim. I don't like, the thing about the game too is, like, other than the tracks at the very end, which score points, I don't feel like, other than like, oh, you get 2 points, he gets 3 points, you get 4 points. Like, I don't feel like I'm ramping up to anything in particular. Like, when you play Civilization games, you feel like, oh, now I created fire. Now I can do a printing press. Now I have space travel. Like, you feel like you've made fundamental changes and differences. And this really abstracts it, the different elements of like the technologies that you add to your board. So I never really felt like, as a Civilization game, I was progressing. And I never felt like there was, like, at the end of the game, a big moment, right? Like, oh, I was able to, I don't know, create a I was able to churn out neutrons or something at the very end of the game, and like, look at me, I'm going to other planets or something like that. It's just like, cool, I scored the most on the brown track. Like, I don't know, just like, I don't know, Tim. Just like, all right, I did it.
No, I think that's also a fair criticism. Back to the dice rolling for a sec. I mean, I love Feld's other games that involve dice, like Bora Bora and Castles of Burgundy are two awesome dice games by the same designer that I
Bruges
think
too.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that one, but
that's great.
For the playtime, like those are much shorter, easier to learn, and I think better. So
yeah. Again, I only played these games once each, so take it with a grain of salt. I would certainly play all three of these games again to give them a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. I don't typically like to review games without giving a full multi kind of play sessions for them. But as far as first impressions go, obviously, I think you get a good sense of the games. Like as far as like, have you seen certain elements of it before or since? I don't know what else Feld could have done as far as a theme is concerned. Like you tell me Feld in a Civilization game, and I'm like, my money's down there. Like I'm just there because I love Civilization games. I love Felds. So this is not it, man. But play Bruges, Tim. You gotta play Bruges at some point. If you can find it, it's out of print. But play with the expansion because it's even better with the expansion. So that's kind of a little bit of a Civ game, I guess, in a little way. So, all right. Well, those are all our roll for reviews. Now let's talk about some games that we would like to get to the table and roll for previews. So, Tim, what are you looking at on the crowdfunding side of things?
So I wandered on to Kickstarter this week, and as one does, and the title of this game caught my eye.
Yes.
Hover, a surprisingly brutal hummingbird game.
Oh, man.
Like that's a good title.
Yes.
And so I started reading a little bit, and I'm just going to read a little bit from the page here. So, fun fact, hummingbirds are savage, territorial cutthroats. Literally, they aim for each other's throats with their sword-like beak to keep other hummers from getting that sweet, sweet nectar. And however you play as hummingbirds thirsty for nectar and a mate, you'll fight and outmaneuver your feathered frenemies to build a nest, win a mate, and secure legacy. First bird to win a nest and perform a courting call wins the game. So, they really are leaning into the theme. Like, I don't think this is just a clever title. And so I'm looking at the game a bit. It comes with a circular board, which again is kind of a unique thing. We don't see too many circular boards. And you're going to have a nest that is adjacent to all the edges of the board. And what you're trying to do is wander through that board to gather things for your nest, twigs and spider silk to build up your nest. But you got to be careful because while you're away, other people can raid your nest. So there's definitely sort of thievery going on from each other. You want to venture out if you're feeling so brave all the way to the center of the map. There's a feeder there that you can feast at. But again, be careful what you're able to hang on to versus get stolen from you. So you're trying to build up your nest. You're trying to gather and upgrade your hummingbird as you go. And I should pause and say there's a variety of different hummingbirds in the game, each of which has special abilities, which is supposed to cater to their actual nature's counterpart, kind of like in Wingspan, where they made an effort to really lean into the science. And in the end, you're going to try and attract a mate. But while you do that, other people get a chance to mess with you by spending their energy to distract that potential mate. And you have to have enough preening and sort of evolution of yourself, plus a very attractive nest to outdo their efforts to distract that potential mate from you. So I just thought the whole theming was quite clever. It looks unique. It looks vicious. So I do think you're going to have to be tolerate some take that to be able to play this game. I'm not sure I'm going to back it because of that. My game group doesn't really love take that, but part of me is tempted to get back and just find a group that can tolerate that and just go out slugging with these tiny little cutesy birds.
Yeah, I've saw this game as well, Tim, and it, like you mentioned, it really took me back. Just like the idea of like hummingbirds are jerks. I'm just like, hummingbirds? Jerks, come on, not hummingbirds. And I was like, are you guys like really mad that like Wingspan's out there and you wanted to kind of like let people know? I don't know like the audience for hummingbirds are jerks. Like, are there a lot of bird lovers out there who are just like, you know what, I love birds, but those damn hummingbirds, nah, I don't know. Stay out of here. I don't want these people here. Yeah, I don't know, Tim. It seems like a very interesting game. I do appreciate, and they do mention it several times, that they've very much try to keep towards the scientific side of like the nature of hummingbirds, and the different hummingbirds have different special abilities, and certainly trying to call over a mate and then everyone else tries to work against you. I'm just like, is this Munchkin? Like, what's going on here? It's kind of mean, Tim. So it's interesting to see. I mean, obviously this is backing and this will come out, but it's interesting to see if there is a unique audience for I love birds, but also I love being a jerk to other players at the table. Because Wingspan does not seem like that crowd, Tim, even though sometimes some combos are more jerky than others, I guess.
Yeah, I guess if somebody's going to do that rare sighting and you're just knocking the binoculars out of their hand to make sure you're the only one who gets to document it, I guess.
You know that guy. Jeez. Why are you a bird watcher? You should not be part of this. Like, nah, I'm a hummingbird bird watcher. The other birds are jerks, man. It's like, okay, I guess. Yeah.
But they've done their homework. There's an expansion with desert hummingbirds. There's a promo pack with Cuban hummingbirds. Like, they really are leaning into the science. They made an effort to be eco-friendly with this project. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but they mentioned that as a goal of theirs. So, I mean...
No hummingbirds were harmed in the making of this game? Is that what you're trying to say, Tim?
Yeah. So,
excellent.
Yeah, beware. Vicious game.
Vicious game, hummingbirds, of all things.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys like to play I know you guys like to play Blood Rage, but what about Hover? And they're like, oh my god, Hover? No way, man. My mom says I can't play Hover. It's too vicious. Like,
yeah, fascism might have been a good theme for this game too, but
well,
I guess it's already been covered. So
that's right. The hummingbirds need to get the other game that had the anarchist dentist with the bricks, Tim.
Yep.
I think that's they should invest. I think that game still might be available. So pick up Hover if you are really into that hardcore stuff, and then obviously pick up Anti-Fascist Tooth Fairy, because I think those games are a good bundle. It's the Barbenheimer of tabletop gaming there, Tim.
I love it.
All right, well, I'm going to do the thing that I am not supposed to do, because it's all the things that, we've talked about for quite some time, but I think I have to do it, Tim. I'm going to be talking about an Awakened Realms super deluxe upgraded game of, I guess it's easy to say it's a modern day classic. This is Concordia, the special edition.
Do I need to mute you before I lose more of my pocketbook here, Chris?
Tim, you might, and I might too as well. And I have been very brave and bold to stay away from their other two super deluxe expansions of Puerto Rico and Burgundy. I've stayed away from those for different reasons, of course. But Concordia is a game, Tim. And I know you know this because I've talked about this a lot in the podcast. I have not owned Concordia forever. I did recently get the Venus version from Anthony, as his collection was about to topple his small house to the ground. But Concordia has been a game I've loved so much for so long, Tim, because it's probably one of the very few games that I've played so much, never owned a copy, because we've played it so much with my game groups. And if you have not played Concordia, please, we've talked about it for 1,000 episodes, and you certainly should check it out. But basically, Concordia is one of the best board games that out there. I don't think this is that's not hard to say, Tim. Is that a controversial take? Would you take that as a controversial take?
No, I think it's a Hall of Famer.
Okay. So Matt Gertz, really known for his amazing, deep, and rich strategy game based in map control, came out with a very wondrous, unique mechanic where basically it's a very traditional Euro game of trading in the Mediterranean. You're in the Mediterranean and you have boats and you have people who are traveling around by both land and sea to visit different cities, to create trading posts in those areas to gain resources from those areas so that you can trade and sell them for other things. Again, not controversial, not a super crazy kind of take, but really what makes this game so very special is the market, because the actions that you're going to take come from the set cards that you start with and additional cards that you'll pick up from the market. Now, those cards, like Architect, for example, will allow you to build, right? It's the Architect card. It allows you to build in cities if you have the resources that meet that particular city's conditions. What's brilliant about the game is that card is also a point scoring card at the end of the game. So depending on the cards that you are collecting and utilizing, that same card is going to be scoring you points. So the efficiency engine's brilliant. I purchase this card. I use this card constantly. By using the card constantly, I'm setting myself up for victory points at the end of the game. And it really puts me in a good position. And I feel very smart playing the game, Tim. Like, I feel like everything's rolling. It's very fluid. There's a tension because everyone's jockeying for certain spaces. If they build there, it's more expensive for me to build there. What cards come out to the market? There's cards called Minerva cards that will score points for certain types of resources. So maybe that shifts your strategy here. So, and there's a lot of different maps that come into play here. There's a couple of different expansions. There's an expansion, which, again, I've talked about. There's the Venus expansion, which I don't know if you played the Venus expansion, Tim, where you get to play as teams. And
it sounds very interesting, but I've not tried it.
It's very cool. It's surprising that it works so very well. You basically 2-player teams, so you can play up to 6. I don't know if it's 8, but it's definitely at least 6. It's got to be 8, I guess, actually. And basically what you're coming down to is like you're playing in a partnership with another player, and then your combined scores is really what, how you kind of come out. There's a Salsa expansion, which gives you some additional bonuses to kind of ramp up your scoring conditions and production throughout the game, which is also very fun. So again, there are certain elements of this game that are very familiar, and there's certain cool elements with the cards that are very unique and like utilized and focused to the top. The production, Tim, the production of this game and the glory of the colors of the map and the boards and the resources and the material, the monies and things of that nature are insane, Tim. Like, they are gorgeous. Like, it's just beautiful and bright and colorful throughout. And surprisingly enough, above and beyond everything else here, Tim, it comes in a box that actually holds everything, and it holds it in such a way that it doesn't look like this behemoth of a giant square cube that you can't bring anywhere. Basically, the main box holds the main game, and then there's a smaller map box that holds all of the maps. So that's pretty awesome. And then there's expansions. It comes with all the expansions, Tim, including some new expansions. So
yeah. They were listening to you about it. My friend was saying he was backing it. So Corey, who I've mentioned before, he's getting suckered into this, and he was saying that I said, well, you're not gonna be able to carry it anyway. He hosts game night anyways, but
yeah.
He says, no, it's designed so I can put one map and all the things I need for one map and take it away and leave the other stuff at home. And so, but on his shelf, it looks unified and glorious.
Yes.
So
it seems like they took a note from Arcs. I don't know if you played Arcs, Tim, but like Arcs did something very smart from Leader Games where you could pull the base game out and take the base game with you and leave all the extra stuff behind. Yep. So it had enough smarts to do that. The production here is crazy. It's top notch. Obviously, there's a million stretch goals which have not come out yet. There is some expansions. There's I guess a barbarian expansion that comes to the game. So instead of kind of building up the cities and the resources, you're barbarians, very much like Blood Rage. And the Vikings are coming down here. The barbarians are coming down to take over the Mediterranean and bring destruction. So there's
I wonder if it comes with a He-Man miniature there.
It looks very He-Man like, Tim. It looks very much it looks very He-Man like. So
less fuzzy Speedos, but
definitely less fuzzy on the Speedo, but maybe more of a Ram Man kind of look as far as the sculpts are concerned. And I should mention also there are a lot of sculpts. So if you actually play the game itself, you're not getting sculpts like that. So this has really crazy sculpts as far as the cities are concerned, the resources are concerned, the maps are all upgraded in color and dynamic. If you want to get the standard edition, you're going to get standees, which are not too bad. And then again, there's just like stuff that's crazy, like the first player markers and other things are just like crazy, beautiful, unnecessarily high quality miniatures. But this might do it, Tim. I've dodged the first two. I don't know if I'll be able to dodge the third, Tim. I'm just being honest with you. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to dodge the third one here because, again, it's so good looking. Damn it. It's such a good game, and you can play it solo. There's a solo expansion on top of everything else, Tim. So if you want to take this puppy home and play it there, certainly. This is good looking.
At the time of recording, almost 10,000 people have decided they want this, Chris. So
and I'm not one of those 10,000. Why is that, Tim? I should be in that world. We should mention it's quite expensive. I mean, obviously, duh, right? That's the thing, Tim. So yeah, I guess again, depending on what kind of version we're looking at here. Oh no, Tim, 241 euros, Tim. I don't know what the market is at right now. You're Canadian. I'm US. I don't know what the market is, but that sounds expensive, Tim.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit. Again, if I want to justify this to myself, I would say I'm getting the base game. I'm getting multiple expansions, multiple maps that if I went back and bought it all separately, would also run a pretty penny. So, Chris, like, that's your ticket in, buddy.
Oh, God. There is the Concordia Opus Magnum Pledge, Tim, and that's 339 euros, Tim. And then, because... like if they didn't get you the first time, you could pick up the other edition. You could pick up Puerto Rico and Castles of Burgundy. And if you want to get all those super deluxe components, you ready for this, Tim?
I see it.
809 euros, Tim. 809 euros.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, Tim.
You better be starting a new game collection, and those are the 3 games you're going to play for the rest of time.
Yeah, and the dollar is really super down here. I wonder why. Can't think of any reason. That would be $935.96 in US dollars. That doesn't include the shipping, Tim.
Oh, no.
That doesn't include the shipping, Tim. Damn it, Tim. Stupid podcast making me buy things. So Concordia Special Edition is currently up on GameFound. You have 18 days, give or take, at the time of this recording. So if you want to purchase this game and be my best friend forever, invite me over. I will certainly come to your... I mean, it'd probably be cheaper, Tim, if I flew somewhere to play this game than actually purchase the actual game. Although you never know what gas prices these days, Tim. Just saying. All right, well, that's all the acquisition disorders that we're going to talk about this week because Tim and I need to fall down and take a breather for a second before we get on to the feature review. The feature review, of course, this week, we're going crazy. It's the voice of the gamers. Tim is bringing it. He's talking about building up our top 10 games that build skyward. Tim's taking it to the third dimension, but we should mention a caveat here. We are not talking dexterity games, Tim.
That's right. I, again, tried to put together a list that limited myself a bit because dexterity games, again, kind of like party games, I'll play sometimes when I'm in the mood, but they're not really my jam. I have a few, again, that I like, similar to party games, and I'm happy to pull out. But this, again, is, I'm assuming people want to hear a list for gamers with some strategy. And I don't know, I just talked over the last few weeks about a few games that layer. One of them will show up in this list. That I thought it'd be an interesting topic. I was surprised how many when we went to go looking. Could easily have made a top 15, but in the interest of time, we'll limit it to 10. And I'm just going to run you through. Before we start, though, I want to give a shout out to a mass market game that I think fits this list.
Come on, Tim. That's not our thing. We don't do that.
I'm sorry. Breaking all the rules tonight.
Tell you, Tim.
So, Upwards, I think, is a good kind of illustration of what we're aiming for in this list. You take Scrabble, and then you allow people to build over top of other tiles to go upwards. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so I've really enjoyed Upwards. It's a game my dad and I played. He likes Scrabble as well, but we played enough games of Scrabble. We decided to give Upwards a chance and enjoyed that one. I think there's room for both of those games on my shelf. So if you like Scrabble and you're interested in this list, Upwards is something that I think is still available out on the market. I haven't gone looking for a while, but it's a good game. So if you see it at a garage sale or something, they printed a lot of copies initially.
Yeah, I like Upwards better than Scrabble, Tim.
Really? That's
yeah.
bold.
I like the idea of the way that the board state changes, and you can kind of play with that. I think that's kind of fun and interesting. Instead of learning every crazy Q and Z word that's possible for like 18,000 points.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure in Upwards the U comes comboed in with the Q on the same tile,
See?
so they wised up to that.
Yeah. I wonder how many times people played Scrabble and were like playing around, fooling around a little bit, and were doing Upwards before the game Upwards came out.
Yeah.
Because it seems like an obvious kind of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely one of those games where you play and like, why didn't I think of this?
I know, right? All right, Tim, so take us through your top 10.
Alrighty, we're going to start with number 10, Dragon Castle, which came out in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Designers are Halmar Hack, Luca Ricci, and Lorenzo Silva. And that's the same. Two of those designers worked on The King's Dilemma and Photosynthesis. So there are some games that's
great.
A good design team there. In Dragon Castle, I want you to think of the computer game Mahjong. So not the actual game Mahjong, but you know that pile of tiles where you're trying to find two that match?
Yeah.
That's sort of the foundation of this game.
It is.
So out of that big central stack of tiles, you're going to take one from the top level and try and find another available one that goes with, if you can. And you're going to take those two tiles and put them in your own board. Alternatively, you could take one tile and one shrine, which is like a roof that will go on to your castle. And you're going to place those onto your player board, trying to make groups of similar colored tiles next to each other. Because if you make a group of at least four, you're going to flip those over and they consolidate them, is the terminology in the game. And that's going to score you a certain number of points. The bigger the group that you make at once and consolidate, it will score you more points. And you're gradually going to be able to layer tiles on top of the ones you've already consolidated. And the higher you go, the more points you basically score. Because you're going to put a shrine eventually on the top. And the height of that shrine will determine scoring. So points for groups as you go, points for the height of your shrines at the end. And then there's spirit cards, which you can use that will give you special abilities, and dragon cards, which will give you additional ways of scoring that are unique to each game. So overall, big chunky pieces, awesome table presence, 3D appeal, or a sort of a Asian sort of theming to it. And just in general, I find a very pleasurable game.
Yeah, I own a copy of this, and I've played it a lot with new gamers, and it's really easy to get people to play it. And it's very colorful and fun and dynamic, and like you said, there's a base of knowledge for people out there, so it's quickly acceptable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, moving up to number 9, we've got Miyabi, which is a game by Michael Kiesling that I don't really think got a lot of buzz as far as I saw. The box, I wouldn't think did the game justice. The production quality of the game overall, I thought could have been better. It's basically a game where you're building a Japanese garden, but like the little stones and like ponds and bushes to me really kind of underwhelming. I thought this was a theme that really could have worked well, but I figure I could do the artwork at the level it's at. Like, it's really not nice to look at. But I actually cranked through this game right before I came to record tonight. We knocked it out with my son and my wife in like 35 minutes. So it plays quick, and it's got a good amount of strategy. So basically, there's going to be a pool of tiles you can draft, which are going to be size 1, 2, or 3, and accordingly have 1, 2, or 3 of the symbols that you're collecting. And what you have to do is you have to place the tile such that the symbol lines up with the row of that symbol. So I can rotate the tile any way I want, so the adjacent sort of fields on the tile hang out in any direction, but the actual symbol has to line up with the row it should go in. And then the trick is, where that symbol landed, you have to move your lantern at the top of the column off, and in each round, you're only going to be able to place one tile into each column. So over the course of several rounds, then, you're starting to layer tiles not just beside each other, but on top of each other. And similar to some other games we're going to talk about, the higher you go, the more points it's worth. So it has to be fully supported by the tiles underneath it. So if it's a size 3 tile on level 2, you're going to take 3 points that you would have got, but multiply it by 2 because it's on the second level. So the higher you go, more points you get. At the end of the game, you're going to score, first person to get to the 5th level of any sort of one thing, do that first, which is hard to do. It's only 5 rounds in the game with 3 players, so you have to do pretty repetitive stacking to get to that 5th level. The first player is going to be rewarded with a victory point bonus. And then at the end of the game, each row, you're going to count up how many of the appropriate symbols you have in each row. And there's going to be a majority who got the most, who got the second most kind of scoring at game end. So in the end, you're left with this sort of what would be a beautiful garden if the art was better, in 3 dimensions. Fairly abstract game, but quick, good strategic decisions, and definitely the 3D layering is well done in this game.
Nice.
All right, moving up to number 8. A fairly popular game, came out in 2016, Santorini from Roxley Games. This is one that definitely, if you've seen it on the table, you'll remember. If you think of Santorini, you think of white, I don't know if it's marble, but white buildings with these blue domes on the top. And this game was famous for its components. They are plastic, and they're nice. It's a grid. You've got 2 workers or pawns that you can move, and on your turn, you're going to move one of them. And then you have to build a chunk of white building next to that person. Your overall goal is to eventually stack and climb on these things till you get to standing on a building of height 3. But of course, your opponent is trying to mess with you, get in your way, and cap off those white towers with a nice blue dome before you can ever get a chance to stand on them. So the winner of the game is somebody managed to get to standing on level 3 or traps their opponent such that they can't move or place legally a white piece onto the board. So that's a very good just abstract game in and of itself. And then what they did to layer on a theming was give you, I think it's 30 gods or something in the box, where each god gives you a rule-breaking ability. So I'll get one, my opponent get one, both of us play different gods, and we use those additional abilities on top of the base abstract rules. So beautiful game, fun to play, also pretty quick. I think one of the better abstract games that I own, and usually happy to sit down and play this one. Do you like this one, Chris?
I do. I think it's a surprising game. It's one of those things where, like, it looks cute and adorable and kind of easily engaging, but it really there's such an interesting complexity to it. On top of being fun, and cutesy and everything else like that. So I feel like this is kind of an upper tier game. I think it's one of those situations where, I think they hit a little bit of a magic there. And it reminded me again, back in the day as a kid playing, and I don't remember what we used to call it, but like dots, where you would kind of square those things out and try to contain areas and things like on a piece of paper. And this is like, oh, I know how to play this. This is fantastic. So yeah, 100%.
Okay. And then moving up to number 7, let me ask you this, Chris. Historically, if I said, I've got a board game made by Lego, you'd be excited?
I would not be excited, Tim. I would be very much afraid, but also, yeah. And I also think that would be a very expensive thing too, as well, these days.
So I've tried a few of Lego's previous offerings. They're usually kids' games, and they're usually, honestly, pretty terrible.
Yes.
But I started to hear a buzz around the game Monkey Palace, which came out in the last couple of years. It specifically came out in, I don't know, I don't have the year written down, but it's by David Gordon, who is subsequently then went on to design Finspan, and also did Crafting the Cosmos, and that was sort of co-design. David Gordon and Tam is the name of the other designer. So those are some titles I think also got some buzz. But in Monkey Palace, this one's a bit hard to describe. So you're going to have a central board where you're all building, and you're going to have your own collection of Lego blocks. On any given turn, you're going to try and use arches to gradually make a stairway added onto the Monkey Palace. And the rules around building is you can turn corners, but you can't branch with that stairway, and every portion of the stairway has to be supported. So there are bricks and columns that are used to support the arches, but the star of the show is these arches that have to continually get higher each step, and then you're trying to get that stairway to go as high as you can into the Monkey Palace. Once you build it, you're going to get rewarded based on the number of arches you manage to string together in a single turn, and that's going to give you monkey credits that you then use to spend on cards. And the card is almost like a mini tableau building. It gives you some immediate bricks to your supply, but also a lot of the cards have a recurrent delivery, which is an income phase in the game, that gives then, when you get that card, adds to your income. So you get more and more bricks, which is clever because then the game allows, as the tower gets taller, for you to climb further up each turn because you have more bricks at your disposal and more arches. So it really is, and there's 3 different terrain types, and there's rules around, decorating the palace based on what terrain type you start in, and certain cards can only be bought based on that. So there are a few more rules that I'm glazing over, but the overall just constructing of arches and this colorful 3-dimensional game, I've never seen really any game like this one, and it is fun. I was very surprised by this one when we cracked the box open and gave it a try. So any experience with this one, Chris? Have you seen it? Have you played it?
I've heard I heard about this, and I saw this kind of burning up on the BGG Top 100. The hotness, I should say, for a bit. And I was surprised by that because, like you said, Tim, like a lot of these outside companies, when they try to do a board game, it's more like it's just kind of a gimmick, which is not the worst thing in the world, but sometimes it's just rather disappointing when you come into the board game realm and you're not actually a board game. So it sounds like they actually have solid designers who actually made a board game, Tim. So I'm happy about that.
It got up to a 2.0 weight, which is significantly heavier than any previous Lego games. And it gets an average 7.1 rating currently on Board Game Geek. So I think it's worth checking out. Number 7, Monkey Palace.
Nice.
All right, at number 6, I'm going to go another climbing sort of game called The Climbers. This one goes a few years back, and it was brought out as part of Capstone's sort of light on rules, but heavy on strategy type of line. And this is also an eye catcher. If you walk by on the table, you're going to see this tower made out of wooden blocks. I think those wooden blocks we had when we were kids that came in different colors, and you'd spend hours building towers out of them and just to knock them over. That kind of game. So at the beginning, you build a sort of tower around these central gray pillars, and each block has 5 different player colors and 1 white side, which is neutral. And the trick of the game is you're going to try and start climbing up these blocks with your little meeple guy, but you can only step onto blocks that have your color face up or the white side face up. And you can only, in a single move, climb a height of 1. So it can't be taller than your climber himself to hop up to the next level. And so you're allowed on your turn to pick up and move and rotate 1 block to put it usually closer to your own guy so that he has somewhere to then step. And you're allowed to hop up as far as you can in legal moves within a single turn. And somewhere along the way, you get 2 ladders that are one-time use in the game that let you climb to height 2 with the short ladder, or height 3 or 4 with the tall ladder to get you out of some sticky spots if your opponents box you in. And there's also a disc you can use to reserve a spot. Okay, this is really going to mess me up if somebody puts a block here or takes that block. You can lock down 1 block for a round till it gets back to you. Sure. I think that's a one-time use in the game as well. But so there's some interesting one-time use wrinkles in this sort of puzzle, but really moving these blocks around and manipulating the tower so you can climb the highest. The game goes till all the players at the table pass consecutively because they can't climb any higher, and then whoever got the highest is the winner. A pretty cutthroat game. Speaking of, we're on that theme today. This one is kind of a mean game, I will say, despite its colorful childhood-looking blocks. You're really trying to block your opponents as much as you are trying to get yourself higher.
Gotcha.
So that's The Climbers. Number 5, we'll pause briefly at a game I just discussed on the Point Salad episode called Acropolis.
Yes.
I keep coming back to this one because to me it's a very simple rule set. Collect tiles in certain colors and place them in a way that they want to be placed. Each tile color has its own criteria. But again, sacrifice some things by covering up tiles on your first level, because the higher you go, the more the tile's worth. And make sure you collect some stars. I can't remember the official name of the game, but they are the multiplier for your points. So if you really get some blue tiles high up and you get a bunch of blue stars, you can really start to ramp up the scoring. It's one of these tile layering games, building up games that distills things down to its most basic essence, but still feels strategic to me. So I really like Acropolis.
It's a good game. I remember playing that way back in the day. It's a lot of fun.
All right, and then moving on to games. Speaking of the hotness, this one landed heavy last few years ago. Number 4 is Harmonies. This one is kind of like Cascadia in 3D as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
You're going to have animal tiles that want you to build certain terrains. And in the game, you're going to have 5 offerings of 3 different tiles or discs grouped together. You take one group of those discs and put them on your personal player board. There are some restrictions in how to place in terms of, mountains can only be gray stacked on each other. Buildings are red. They can only be stacked on each other. Fields and water can't stack. So there's a few rules that way, but generally it's pretty open in terms of where you can place things. So what you're trying to do is meet the patterns that you're seeing on specific animal cards. You can take an animal card. It will come with a certain number of cubes on it. And each time you make this pattern in your ecosystem, you get to take a cube off and place it onto one of the discs. That blocks that disc from participating in the same pattern again, and also from putting any further discs on it. So it becomes increasingly restrictive as you place these cubes out. And it's really a sort of efficiency puzzle in the number of turns in the game to satisfy as many of those animal cards as you can, and empty those cards by making the same pattern repetitively. So it does feel abstract. I don't know that it couldn't have had a different theme, but the theming they put on it is nice. The animal art is really good. And there are some things that feel slightly thematic there in terms of, like, you can have 2 browns and put a green cap on it to make a tree.
It's true.
But you're not looking for heavy theme if you're playing this game. It is a fairly abstract but very solidly designed game.
Yeah, and the stacking of the pieces is key to victory. It's not enough just to have a couple of spots kind of lined up, but you really want to get those end game bonus goals and kind of create that kind of abstracted kind of landscape. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so definitely if you like Cascadia and that sort of type of game, I would recommend Harmonies.
Sure.
All right, at number 3, we're going to get into a little dice rolling. Blueprints is a game that's from a ways back in 2013. I think it got a second reprint a few years back. A little harder to find maybe, but it is out there. And in Blueprints, basically, you're going to try and, over the course of 3 rounds, build the best buildings out of dice. So there's this weird conversion of you earn building points for your current project, and then those convert. Whoever has the building with the highest building points in a round gets 5 victory points, second place 2, third place 1. And then you're also trying to satisfy certain bonus cards, get 5 dice of the same color, or 4 dice of the same value, or 1 dice of each value, stack dice at least 5 high. There's different scoring bonus cards that come into play. And so it's a dice drafting game. You're going to roll some dice, take 1 into your building, and then replace it from the bag with a random dice. And, each dice has its own way of scoring. Like green dice, how many do you have in your structure total? But orange dice, well, it's more about how many dice are adjacent to them. Black dice is how high they are. Clear dice, what's their face value? So you're considering a lot of things with each dice that you draft, which tends to be something I like in a game. I'm trying to satisfy multiple victory conditions or objective with a single sort of move. And so this is a quick playing game, a bit of luck in it, but the drafting minimizes that luck. It's just a solid game. I like it. Each building's only made of 6 dice. It doesn't get too fiddly or too accident prone. And you build 3 different buildings over the course of the game. There's a blueprint that you can choose to follow for bonus if you make a certain shape, but you don't have to follow that. If you're going to score more points by following a different objective, do that. So enough different ways to score that you can make up your own mind strategically. And I've had a lot of fun with this one. I would highly recommend it if you can find a copy. Blueprints.
Yeah, I own a copy of the game, and as you mentioned, Tim, the different dice refer to like the different materials, and the clear dice are like glass in the building, so it gives you like a thematic vibe of like you're actually building a structure. And as you mentioned, it's a small little game. It's a small little box game, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Good. Okay, number 2, we are going to go with another heavy hit that came out in 2018 from Emerson Matsuuchi, Reef.
Mm-hmm.
So Emerson Matsuuchi is probably most famous for the Century series of game and Foundations of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a very good designer to pay attention to when he puts out a game. In Reef, you've got a variety of colorful corals that you're going to put onto your personal player board, which is a 4x4 grid. And similar to some of the other games we've talked about, you're trying to make patterns within that grid. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of similar to Harmonies or Cascadia in some ways. And again, 3 dimensions. So once I play a coral thing, it's stuck there. But if I don't want that color there anymore, I can cover it up with a different color on a subsequent turn. The core mechanic is you're playing a card, and at the top of the card, it's going to have certain coral elements you'll add to the reef. And at the bottom of the card will be a completely different colored thing, different colored coral that you're going to use to score. Do I have 3 in a diagonal line? Do I have a orange coral at a certain height? And usually they're multiplied. So every time you make that pattern within your grid, you score it. So it's one of those games where you can be very strategic and take a few turns to build up your coral to land one big scoring round. And, see what I did? And it gives you that big sort of moment where you feel powerful and you just get this big point swing. But I've also seen people just nibble away and play a little bit of scoring with each card they play. And so another quick playing game. I want to say like 30 minutes for this one.
Yes.
Great table presence. Another game that people stop and say, ooh, what's that? Easy to teach, streamlined, fun. So I highly recommend Reef.
Yes. Very colorful.
Okay, and my number 1 on Games Building to the Sky. You're going to arrive when you got up that stairway to heaven in the fantastic Llama Land.
Mm-hmm.
So, number 1, another game from Phil Walker Harding. I don't know your thoughts on Phil Walker, but I think he does a great job of taking mechanics and boiling them down to a decision space that's palatable and manageable, and games that play usually in under an hour. And so this fits that pattern as far as polyominoes and 3D polyominoes go. So in Llama Land, you have 5 stacks of size 5 polyominoes in various shapes. And on those tiles, there's one of 4 or 5 icons. There's 3 basic resources, and this is themed in kind of llama territory. So it's going to be corn, cacao, and I'm drawing a blank on the third one. Potatoes, I want to say. The 4th symbol is coins, and all those kind of work the same. As you layer on these 3D polyominoes, like in Miyabi, they have to be fully supported by the layer below them. But whatever you cover up, you get is income. So if I cover up 2 potato symbols, I get 2 potatoes. And before I go too far in the rules, the other thing you can cover up is a town. When you cover up a town symbol, then you get to pick a townsperson, which is a rule-bending or like trader kind of rule. So I can put down this townsperson that let me trade between cacao and corn, or between potatoes and coins, or every time I gather at least 2 potatoes, I get an extra potato. So you get this tableau building kind of abilities by covering those towns, which I always kind of like that. I'm now asymmetric from the other players at the tables in terms of what I can do, and they're all jealous of my grand engine. But I'm a little bit envious that I don't have that card they have, right, in terms of bending those rules. So that's a lot of fun. And you start to collect these resources with the goals of buying llamas. I believe each llama costs 4 of the same resource, and you can use coin as a wild resource. And it's diminishing returns. So there's 3 columns of llamas. First come on the potato llama gets a better potato llama than the person who comes next. Corn llamas, etc. And the game is going to end as you're burning through those llama cards, as you burn through the tiles, or if you run out of 4, down to 4 tiles in those things. So in the end, I forgot one piece. You're putting objectives onto scoring cards. And when you buy those llamas, you place llamas at a certain height, and a lot of the scoring cards have to say, like, get up 4 llamas in a row, or get a llama at height 5, those kind of things. So in addition to points on the llama cards, you're placing the llama meeples into this 3D grid to satisfy objectives. So again, a mismatch of objectives. I don't know if I've done the greatest job describing this game. It's actually not that hard. It's easier to, I think, to see it than to describe it. But again, a smash hit for me from Phil Walker Harding. So I don't know, Chris, what are your thoughts on Phil Walker Harding? Are you a fan of his works over the years or no?
I am a fan of his llama-based games. I think that's where he stands out most. I think it's one of those kind of key areas. It's always funny when we talk about tabletop games, Tim, and there's just an animal or a theme that you never think of, and then somebody comes in and it's just like, you know what? How about llamas? And you're just like, that'll never work, and he makes it work. And again, I think it's a very fun design, and he's done a lot of those kind of similar spatial elements. I think he has a very good vibe for it. I guess probably my favorite game of his, at least off the top of my head, I could think about is Gizmos. If you remember that game, it's a little bit on the abstract side, but I really did enjoy that game. Obviously, Sushi Go is probably his most favorite kind of thing. I think
Barren Park was a pretty big hit as well.
Barren Park was okay. And I also played what was it? My Selfie or something like that. My Shelfie, which was again another game that utilized a lot of that kind of spatial mechanic, where it was like, I don't know why he did books, Tim. Like, he had board games. He could have done board games in there, but like he had this kind of like plastic. Again, talking about how you worked your way up. It's almost like a tic-tac-toe or cross Connect 4 kind of board, and you had to slot in these different color book tiles, and then they scored points based on different things. Which, so that reminded me a little bit of that. But cool, very cool, Tim. Like the list, took guts going a little bit higher there, Tim. You went multiple dimensions.
And I think there are still more games that could make this list. So just like games like Ginkgopolis, I haven't really played, but it's got a good reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Pagoda, number 9.
Mm-hmm.
We were tossing around a few titles before we came on the show, and so
Sure.
this is really a genre that I think I
Mm-hmm.
didn't appreciate. There were so many entries into this
Yes.
space. So
yeah, I don't think. Again, I think it's just. I know it sounds a little weird and basic, but like I think just people are two-dimensional when they were thinking about like their creation of the games. The overlay that we've seen in a lot of games. I think there's a Civilization game, if I remember the top of my head. I'm trying to remember which was it. Was it Classic
Patch
Cultures?
History.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So just overlaying those kind of cards to kind of set up new things is a lot of fun. So yeah, cool. Numbers. I mean, you had numbers originally on your list. Was it number 9?
Number 9, where you get these different polyominoes shaped in the shape of numbers, and you're trying to build them, and again, get them on a higher layer. They're a multiplier to the face value of the number. And so that one's a quick playing one that we pull out of the Goblin, but it's out of print currently. It's disappointing when I teach it to someone and they get excited and I can't get them a copy. But, such is the life of the friendly local game store.
It's true. Well, thank you, Tim. Great list. Hopefully everyone gets the opportunity to build a little higher and enjoy your games on a new level. All right, everyone. Until next time, this is Chris.
This is Tim.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.
Hello, I'm Friendship.
Hi, I'm Mealy, and we're the hosts of Getting Around to It, a podcast by creators for creators.
We talk about topics that content creators can relate to.
Like algorithms, sponsorships, and parasocial relationships.
Plus, we'll give you that gentle nudge when you need to get it done.
Or a slightly less gentle nudge to just do it.
Tune in every other Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.